Good evening. My name is Jeff Weston. I am chair of the NAP Meeting and Webinar Support Committee. This committee provides technical support for events such as our town hall this evening. As a note, if you have questions for our presenters this evening, please use the Q&A box on the left side of your window. I am pleased to introduce Lucy Anderson as our moderator for this evening.
Thank you, Jeff. And good evening, Mr. President, officers, and members of National Association of Parliamentarians. Welcome to the President's Fifth Tuesday Town Hall. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend the webinar this evening. We have a treat in store for you. That's right, treats, no tricks. This evening, we delve deeply into NAP's mission and reason for being. And everyone knows that is, NAP is a society dedicated to educating leaders throughout the world in effective meeting management through the use of parliamentary procedure. And tonight, my friends, we focus on educating leaders. We are focusing on educational opportunities which NAP provides for its members. Tonight, we hear from NAP Education Cluster Leader Ramona Hill. She has gathered together several members of her team. They are here, and they will share with us the educational programs that are available to us as members. In addition to hearing from Ramona and members who work on the education team, we will also hear from Gail Knapp, a member of the NAP Commission on Credentialing. I will ask her several questions that many members have voiced in the past few weeks. She has graciously agreed to be on the call this evening for my questions. Leading off this great team of speakers this evening will be our National President, James Jim Jones. Mr. President, are you ready to kick off our evening with your words of wisdom?
Thank you, Lucy. NAP's primary, and before I start, let me thank the Association Relations Committee and the educational and membership clusters for the hard work that they've done in organizing tonight's town hall. As usual, the whole purpose of our town halls is to provide information to our members and keep them informed on what's going on in our organization and the direction in which we're moving. As relates to our education program, NAP's primary mission is to provide quality parliamentary and governance education to our members and to the public. NAP is proud of the comprehensive, innovative approach it has developed to meet the learning needs of both its internal and external constituencies this biennium. NAP is performing this function this biennium under the banner of Your Learning, Your Way. This expresses NAP's commitment to providing diverse educational opportunities for all learning styles. NAP's overall education program consists of two interdependent parts: our printed materials and our online offerings. All of this, however, is based upon our NAP body of knowledge, which aligns all of our educational efforts together. The body of knowledge is NAP's framework for an orderly approach to parliamentary and governance education. Rather than a haphazard collection of random courses, we've developed a system of education which we believe helps educate members and the public once again in an orderly fashion. NAP's body of knowledge is the foundational blueprint for developing strong members, leaders, and parliamentary consultants within a member-driven organizational environment. NAP's body of knowledge establishes 3 standards for parliamentary learning. Member education is directed at ordinary members of a voluntary society and covers all aspects of parliamentary procedure needed to participate fully in a meeting. Our leadership education is particularly directed toward any member who is or may become a committee chairman, director, or an officer of a voluntary society. And then thirdly, our consultant education is designed to prepare a parliamentarian to serve as a paid or unpaid consultant to client organizations of which he or she is not a member. Each of these three standards are subdivided into domains outlining specific areas where learning should be focused. The body of knowledge provides consistency in how parliamentary learning is approached and how NAP's educational offerings will provide a pathway to stronger proficiencies. While respecting the diverse learning styles and goals of potential learners, the body of knowledge is designed to be used to provide a clear results-focused plan of study with built-in milestones and evaluation points. Instructors can use the body of knowledge to determine where to focus their instruction and how to best meet the individual needs of their learners, whether it's being done at the national level, in our associations, or at the local level. While not meant to promote a rote or cookie-cutter approach, the body of knowledge does allow instructors and learners to engage in a learning process with predictable outcomes. NAP's learning education program basically consists of two components: our written materials and our online materials. While there are very few learning opportunities specifically designed to affordably, effectively, and efficiently build the skills of members and officers of volunteer organizations, NAP's written materials are designed to do exactly that. With our online catalog of educational materials and resources, we try to ensure learners can apply what they learn simply and immediately. Its contents includes books, manuals, training materials, and other helpful study tools. This collection provides practical, resource-rich, specific learning to help participants build parliamentary, governance, and leadership skills for our credentialed members to earn continuing education credits and further their parliamentary journey. Our online courses are a valuable resource through which NAP provides many complimentary and fee-based resources to NAP members and the public. It's the repository of all of NAP's interactive learning and the hub of all of our educational courses. The Educational Resource Committee is also working hard to increase the number of advanced learning opportunities available to our credentialed members while also maintaining a robust library of introductory and intermediate level courses for the public. Additionally, NAP also sponsors several learning events during the biennium that are intended to broaden the reach of its educational endeavors and deepen the understanding of participants at those events. Our two main events are the National Training Conference, which was just held in Buffalo, New York in September, and the Biennial Convention, which will be held September 7th through the 9th, 2019 in Las Vegas, Nevada. We believe that people who attend these events have an opportunity for hands-on learning and a deeper dive into parliamentary and governance education. Also, as a part of NAP's governance structure, the district conferences are another potential opportunity for providing education consistent with NAP's overall education strategy. Through these events, and though they tend to be member-centric, they also preferably include a component that is focused on the learning needs of the public. These events, as well as association activities and events that are held, are part of the larger picture of NAP's event package. This term, we've also held what we call public workshops, and these are organized in concert with our association partners and with local NAP members in areas in need of membership growth. They focus on an introduction to parliamentary procedure for community groups and association leaders. The goal is to extend NAP's impact through outreach to the community, directly to the community. And finally, we have what is called this term the Great Governance Series. This is a series of upscale events conducted during the biennium across the country in partnership with select law schools. Our kickoff event is December 5th of this year at the George Washington Law School in Washington, D.C. The primary focus of that event is a national conversation on good governance and civil discourse. This dialogue will include high-level corporate, judicial, and association officials discussing how to arrive at better decision-making through discourse, procedure, and process-oriented thinking. The bottom line is that the delivery of quality, diverse, educational, and learning experience is pivotal to NAP's strategy of bringing parliamentary education to the world. This education plan depends heavily on the ability of multiple NAP committees and specialty teams to integrate their distinct contributions into a comprehensive educational approach that equitably addresses the distinct needs of practicing parliamentarians, international affiliates, regular members, and the public. It creates a clear framework through which these entities can develop, maintain, and enhance their parliamentary, governance, and leadership skills with an uncompromising commitment to excellence. The plan provides a robust foundation to launch a newly invigorated learning program within NAP built on the strong foundations already in place. We hope that each of you, as well as the members of the public, will take advantage of this program and find it useful. Thank you, Madam President. Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And while we really appreciate education your way, and thanks so much for the overview of all of the different methods by which NAP is providing parliamentary education to the world. And now I would like to introduce the NAP Education Cluster Leader, Dr. Ramona Hill. Ramona, a professional registered parliamentarian, owns Worships, etc. Incorporated. Her expertise is in meeting planning and facilitation for effective communication, organization diversity, problem solving, and strategic planning. In addition to being a certified trainer and facilitator, she has served as an adjunct faculty member, a vice president of enrollment management, and associate provost of graduate and continuing studies, a human resources director, an organization development manager, an industrial engineer, and a budget manager. Dr. Hill's professional background includes the Doctorate of Arts in Communication. She attended Spelman College and the Georgia Institute of Technology. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Ramona. Are you ready to take it away, you and your team?
Thank you so very much, Madam Association Relations Chairman. We are happy to be here with you this evening with your request for us to talk about what's new in the education world for NAP. So tonight, we're going to bring you a data view of where we are in education. And we hope you find this as interesting as we have as we've been uncovering the information. Our first presenter will be Ms. Beth Sapp James. Beth is a professional registered parliamentarian who is passionate in promoting clear understanding and application of parliamentary procedure. As an active member of NAP, Beth serves on the PDC, TSAP, Electronic Association of Parliamentarian Secretary, Gulf Coast Parliamentarians, Green Gavel Unit, and she's very active in each one of these entities. Beth earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science from Spelman, an MBA from Loyola Chicago, and a Master's in Project Management from Keller Graduate School of Management. Beth hails to us from the great state of Texas. And Beth, please take it away with making your brand memorable.
Thank you, Education Lead, Cluster Lead Hill. I appreciate that introduction. So before we start talking about how to make your brand memorable, and that's credentially speaking, let's take a look at who we're talking about. So hopefully everyone can see that, and you can locate your state if you're within the United States. And I would start by saying congratulations to the 62 members of NAP that became registered parliamentarians in 2018. They represent 25% of the 246 registered parliamentarians in our organization. And so they certainly have looked at their brand and decided that a registered parliamentarian credential would add to that. I don't know if you know, but 89% of the registered parliamentarians that we have in the organization are in the United States. And 11% of the registered parliamentarians hail from 4 other countries, from Canada, Lesotho, China, and Malaysia. So as you can see, for those that are in the U.S., that in some states, there's only 1 registered parliamentarian. So for those of you who've yet to get your credentials, that's an opportunity certainly to booster that number. Well, let's take a look at professional registered parliamentarians. That number now is, actually it says 303, but we just add 18 new PRPs from who took the PQC course in Buffalo, New York. And so we're really at 321, with 96% in the United States and 4% in Canada. So for those that are perhaps joining us on the town hall from other countries, there's an opportunity there for you to join the credentialed crew. So my colleagues and I, those that are on the Professional Development Committee, wanted to take a look and do a deeper dive at those who are credentialed. What was their makeup from states, as you've just seen before, as well as districts, to assist us in selecting trainers, as well as tracking expirations. So part of the brand that you have accomplished in getting your credential, you want to make sure that you keep it, which is keeping it memorable, and that's satisfying your requirements for renewal. If you are a registered parliamentarian, you know that that's to satisfy your requirement is 20 CEUs within a 6-year time frame. And for those that are PRPs, it's 150 CEUs, along with either taking the 2-day professional qualifying course, professional renewal course, or taking 7 modules. 5 of those are mandatory and 2 are not. If you take a look at these numbers, what I find interesting is of the 8%, there's 8% of PRPs that are actually expiring this year. And if you were to look down, you will see in 2021, there's 68 that will be expiring at this time in 2021. And that 68 really represents 21% of those that are PRPs. If you look at the RPs, however, if you were to add up 3 of the years from 2019 to 2021, that represents 16%. So what you see in 1 year for PRPs is what you see in 3 years on the RP side. So once we took a look at those that were expiring, specifically in 18 and 19, we wanted to take a look at what we could do to remind people and enhance the experience and the opportunities for those that were expiring. And so you may ask, how do I determine my expiration date? That was sent to you when you became a credentialed member. But in case you have that certificate tucked away or don't have it framed, you received in May a membership card. And for the first time this year, the expiration date is listed on that card. Now, I took a few liberties here, and you see Lucy Anderson on this card, and you see a picture of her. Well, your photo is not on the card, and there's a bit more information, but what's important is that your expiration date for your credential is located on that card. So with that in mind, we wanted to continue to provide a personal approach in how we would be able to assist you in keeping your brand memorable. And we've done that in a number of ways. In June, in July, and August, we made personal phone calls to those that expire in 2018 and 2019, well, those that we could get through to. We will continue to make calls in November and December to remind those to turn in their paperwork by the end of the year, December 31st. We've also sent emails in June, in May, and we were in the member update in January, February, March, May, and October. So as you can see, we've had quite a bit of communication to remind you that your credential may be expiring. And then on the education side, if you were looking for your CEUs, well, you can look right in your own backyard at your local unit. I'm sure there's plenty of opportunity there. And for many, maybe you were tapped by your association. But as President Jones just mentioned, at the NTC, there were many workshops that were given, and so you could have either taught or come to a session. As well, the PDC offered 28 classes this year for those that are expiring. Or I should say, anyone with a credential could take any one of those classes. Many of those were canceled due to low registration numbers. But for the 17 classes that were held, approximately 7 students were in each class. So we just finished an exercise of scheduling our PRC module webinars for next year, and we will be offering 20. So yes, that's a little bit lower than the 28, but that's based upon the cancellations we had this year. So what we've learned is that perhaps we should only offer one class during the summer months, and we offer at least 2 classes each month, except for at the end of the year where we seem to get a rise in the number of attendees, we're offering 3 classes. So I'm happy to announce that those classes will be loaded in the NAP store and available for you to register at the end of this week. And with the numbers that were just discussed on the members that will be expiring year over year, particularly for PRPs, I would suggest that you go ahead and sign up for the classes if you're expiring in 19, 20, or perhaps even 21. You'll see the classes will be loaded in 4-month increments, and so what will be loaded is January through April. We have taken a look and created rules such that we've offered classes across work days during the business week, Monday through Friday, as well as Saturdays. And you will notice that if you could only take one class a month, that each month there's a different offering. Or if you wanted to accomplish all 7 classes within a 4-month period, you will find that all 7 classes will be offered during that time frame. So, like the iconic brand of McDonald's, make your brand memorable by staying a member of the Credentialed crew. And remember, ultimately, it's your responsibility to ensure your requirements are met and that your paperwork has been submitted. But the PDC is here to help with the offerings that we continue to do. Thank you so much, and I turn the mic back over to Education Cluster Lead Hill.
Thank you so much, Member James. That was very informative, and I don't see any questions related to that presentation at this time. So we will move to our next presentation, which is from our membership cluster leader, Ms. Loretta Tillery. Loretta has a firm grip on understanding where we are in our growth as a member organization, and we thought it might be interesting to share some of that information with you tonight. Loretta, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Madam Cluster Leader. And it looks like we're waiting for my slides to load. Okay, great. While we were waiting for slides to load, I wanted to just discuss why the membership cluster is now transitioning from data collection and statistical reporting and analysis to focusing on member acquisition. And as part of that study, we began to look at the various stages of an NAP member. And we came up with 5 transitions of NAP membership. So first we began by asking ourselves, why do people join NAP? And we found that people usually seek the National Association of Parliamentarians for 3 reasons: personal experience and development, leadership needs, or a specific issue or situation that needs to be resolved. From a personal experience and development, something happens in a meeting or a personal desire to become more knowledgeable, or they become a newly elected officer or intend on becoming a future officer, or there's a bylaw issue or revisions or suspected procedural irregularity or they're wayward members or leadership, etc. Something's just not right. So in the organization, there are competing priorities, and something's out of balance. It's either the competing priorities of the organization or priorities that are competing with the individual members' priorities. So we identified 5 transitions of membership along the continuing education path. The first one is the member is a member of an outside organization, and something happens that we mentioned, like one of the 3 main reasons. Then they become transition to an NAP member, and then they become what we call a learned member, and then a parliamentary practitioner, and then finally move on to the parliamentary sage period. So they move along the continuum from chaos, crisis, curiosity, or conflict, overcoming that with education and experience, and then finally ending up with wisdom. Let's look at the first transition of membership, the outside organization member. Whatever's going on in the outside organization, it leads someone to want to delve deeper into parliamentary education, and so perhaps they may Google the National Association of Parliamentarians or parliamentarians or something along that line, and they land on the NAP website. One of the things that they will probably do is to begin to their education quest, or quest for additional knowledge, parliamentary knowledge. They may find at this point that the full version of Robert's Rules of Order newly revised may be too intimidating to them at this point, and they may choose to go with Robert's Rules of Order in brief. They will acquaint themselves with the ranking motions likely, and then probably seek out some particular advice or particular education or guidance, maybe in one of our spotlight series. If there's an issue that they're having as president, for example, they may choose to look at the presidential spotlight or other materials available in NAP. Okay, so now that we've looked at the outside organization member, they may decide that they want to continue their education and become an NAP member. And so they study for the NAP membership exam. They, at that point, will likely become more acquainted with Robert's Rules of Order newly revised and join an NAP unit or an association, or seek higher education or additional education and knowledge amongst the parliamentary spectrum. So the solution to their question at this point is joining NAP, beginning their education quest or quest for additional knowledge, and then acquainting themselves with the various NAP education resources, the Pathways to Proficiency, the Spotlight series, the many other numerous publications and education opportunities that are available in NAP. So we've moved from we've moved to our third transition, which is our learned member. Oh, I'm going too far ahead. Sorry about that. So as the learned member, that's when they continue along the continuum to study more and more. They began to attend district conferences, unit meetings, NAP NTCs, NAP conventions. They continue along their educational skills and to develop them. And then at some point, they may decide that they want to become a parliamentary practitioner. A parliamentary practitioner would be someone who sits for the RP exam and either becomes an RP or PRP. And they take advantage of the additional education opportunities. They may study with take an RP prep course, or within their unit, they may take on a leadership position or a leadership role. So they can begin to utilize the skills in a very welcoming and warm environment that will allow them to learn with other like members. And then after they move from parliamentary practitioner, they move to what we call the fifth transition of membership, which is when they become a parliamentary sage. Because it's important to note that education by itself does not equal wisdom. Skills by itself does not equal wisdom. It is a combination of education and experience that education, skills, and experience that equal wisdom. So, but before we go on at this point, we wanted to talk about what is a good parliamentarian. Let's go back to the previous slide. So some of the skill sets a good parliamentarian should possess is that, one, they be knowledgeable about Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary procedure, possibly some of the other parliamentary authorities. They should also have good interpersonal skills. If you are serving a client or a presiding officer and you and that officer cannot work well together, it becomes a very difficult venture. And so interpersonal skills become really important. A good parliamentarian should also be politically savvy. They should be able to guide a presiding officer or organization member through the different political, let's say, challenges that may be facing the organization. It's not enough just to know what motion to give or what motion to provide, but it's also necessary to understand the context and the environment in which those motions will be used and those actions and decisions. And oftentimes a presiding officer may give you background information on things that they anticipate coming up in the meeting and may look to you for guidance on how to address them. Also, a good parliamentarian needs to be unbiased, and they should not take one political side in a situation over another, but they need to be able to provide clear and concise and thorough parliamentary advice. They also need to be committed. If you take on or commit to providing parliamentary services, you have to show up because, as we heard earlier, you're your own brand. And that was a really wonderful presentation, but you really are your own brand. And so if you develop a reputation for showing up late or not showing up at all, that does damage to your brand. And so you have to be committed to your undertaking. And then you have to be an educator. As a parliamentarian, you're not going to have a lot of time usually to educate your presiding officer or whoever you're serving on the ins and outs and the intricacies of parliamentary procedure. But what you're going to need to do is to be able to quickly and concisely explain to your presiding officer how to handle a motion. The goal is for the presiding officer or whomever you're serving to appear knowledgeable without actually having to done the years of study or hours of study that we've put into becoming parliamentarians. And then many times, a good parliamentarian has to act as a counselor. A lot of what you have to do may or may not have anything to do with Robert's Rules of Order. You may find yourself spending many hours just reassuring the presiding officer that they're prepared, that everything is going to be okay, especially if that presiding officer is going to be entering into what they consider a hostile environment. And so then you become a counselor and try to allay any fears that they may have. And then you also need to be tech savvy. If an organization is using electronic voting, or there's an electronic there's an electronic means of communication, for example, instant messaging or chat rooms where the president will be looking for parliamentary advice so that they can have the appearance of being knowledgeable and in command of the meeting, then you have to be flexible and willing to open yourself to being tech savvy. So a good parliamentarian is knowledgeable, has good interpersonal skills, is politically savvy, is unbiased, is committed, is an educator, is a counselor, and tech savvy. And those are the qualities that we came up with as a cluster for a good parliamentarian. And so NAP does provide some continuing education opportunities specifically to help with the education and the knowledge qualities of a good parliamentarian. So there's unit education, there are unit leadership opportunities, there are association and district leadership opportunities, there's NAP convention education as well as NTC education, there are PQCs and other opportunities for you to continue to sharpen that parliamentary tool. So as you progress along the 5 transition to the state of wisdom. And so now that we've gone through the 5 transitions of membership, we find ourselves at the parliamentary stage, and they say the past is prologue. And so as a parliamentary sage, you should now think about why you joined, because there are others out there who need your help, who are outside of our organization, who are at level 1, who need your assistance as a parliamentary sage. And I just wanted to leave you with the thought that the parliamentary universe is vast, and there's so many opportunities out there for good parliamentarians to provide good service to organizations in need of our service. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Loretta. You've given us a great overview of where we are across the landscape, and now we can strategically work to grow and make sure we have resources in all the places that they're needed. Next up, we're going to hear from our RP course leader, Dr. Cynthia Mayo. When Cynthia and I had this discussion about a month ago about how to introduce her, she said, just tell them that I am a retired educator. So please welcome Dr. Cynthia Mayo, retired educator, to give us an update on the RP prep course that has been going so phenomenally well. Cynthia?
Thank you, Dr. Ramona. Good evening to everyone, and thanks for this opportunity to share with each person. Some of you already know about our RP preparation sessions. We started in September, and we have had sessions for the past 2 months. And believe it or not, the purpose or the objectives are to provide additional educational and practice sessions for participants to prepare for the registered parliamentarian examination, and 2, to provide participants test-taking information and reinforcement activities to successfully pass the RP examination. And I must say the instructors for the project used the 1,200 question study guide to come up with the preparation for each of the RP sessions. So what we did to develop this, we emailed RP and PRP members to solicit their support to be willing to present during these times. And we did get members to volunteer. Some had been members previously of the RP Prep Committee. And from that, each of them decided which session or section they would like to develop the study guides, course materials from. And we do have a wonderful group of people, and they are all volunteering. They developed the section that they decided they would participate and develop some guidelines and tools for the participants. And on tomorrow night, we have section 3 beginning at 7 o'clock. But Margie Booker is going to be a leader for section 2. Lorenza Cuesta will be section 3, and that will be tomorrow. Kara Dickens has done section 1 several times, and she also will do section 5. Darlene Allen, not Sims, I'm sorry, this is the wrong name. It's Darlene Allen is doing section 4 and 5. And then yours truly has worked with section 2. And these are the dates that we have developed the sessions for. The next one, as you can see, will be tomorrow night, which will be research and or section 3. And then on November the 7th, we will have section 5, the 14th research again, and 28th section 3. And then we will start up again in January with the idea that all of the sessions will be completed by March 26th, which means that we would love for people who have been participating and coming on the weekly basis as we have been presenting them, that they are really serious and are taking the sections of the RP exam so that we will have a cadre, a new cadre of RPs at least by April. That is our session, and the information is provided, and we can also send information if you want additional information about the RP preparation sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mayo. And next, I'd just like to give you a quick update of a few of the upcoming sessions that we have. These are new offerings for RP members who need points for recertification. We heard from the member survey last December that there were not enough offerings internally to help RPs meet their certification requirements, and these courses are the start. We're developing the schedule at this time, and we will be able to have enough sessions in a year that RPs can earn many points by attending webinars and on-demand seminars within the NAP structure. So Jeff is going to pull up those 2 slides just so we can look at those dates and make sure that everyone gets those on their calendar. They will be advertised on the NAP website. That structure is being built right now, and our executive director is working really hard to make sure we have all of the information available on the website and through eBlast for our members to be aware of. On October the 11th, Allison Wallace did Democracy in a Box, Telling the Tellers. Got rave reviews from all of the participants, so we're looking forward to doing the same with the rest of the series. On November the 15th, Mary Grant is going to present on The Secretary, a Leading Hero. I know many of you have been members of organizations where the secretary was doing things that were not listed in our ONR. So please join Mary Grant and encourage others to do so to learn more about the Secretary's role in the organizations in which they serve. Roger Henshaw does a wonderful presentation on an overview of Mason's Manual. If you've not learned much about Masons, this might be a good opportunity for you to listen and learn how that set of rules applies in legislative bodies. We have Russ Guthrie in December, Order from Disorder, the Standard Order of Business. Kevin Connolly, for those of you who do youth coaching programs, Kevin is going to give tools and tips for doing this well in coaching youth for parliamentary competitions. And then late in January, Jim Stewart is going to talk about motion sickness. This is the first part of the schedule, ladies and gentlemen. There will be more to come, but look for updates regularly on the website and an e-blast that you will receive about these facilitated modules that will be conducted in Adobe Connect. And we're working on our printed materials. Our old Spotlight series was receiving constant feedback that it needed an update and a refresh, and many of our committees worked with small groups to update all of these documents. So currently available in the NAP store, we have a new series called Focus on Leadership, and the ones available now are Bylaws, Nonprofit Boards, President and Secretary. In the works, the Executive Director has these and is working on getting them published. In the works, we have Focus on Leadership, the Treasurer, and also an update of the pathways, what was done in the meeting. This book is all about taking minutes in a meeting and gives very much detail on that subject. So please look forward to hearing more announcements about educational topics that we will be rolling out in meeting the needs of your education your way within NAP. Now, we've had several questions in the box about PDC questions, and we will get those answered by the PDC committee and provide responses via email within a week following this town hall meeting, because that committee is not on the call tonight, as they did a presentation in May when our Association Relations Chairman gave education another opportunity to talk about different aspects of the education process. So on that note, I think we are now ready to hear from our Association Relations Chair, Lucy Anderson, for the next part of our program. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Chairman Anderson, and we hope we've met the need that you described. Thank you.
No, thank you, Ramona, and your team. How wonderful. What a wonderful and informative presentation you all have given to us this evening. But before you go, I do have a couple of questions for you. One question is, can a person join the RP sessions at week 3, or must they have started at week 1?
I think Dr. Mayo would say, come when you can. So any individual can join at any time. The schedule will be published. We have 288 people currently registered for that course, but they come in and out on an as-need basis. So I'll shorten that by saying yes, people can join that series at any time. And Dr. Mayo has asked me to announce that the session tomorrow will be on section 3 of the RP exam, not research. Section 3 of the RP exam will be tomorrow night in the RP series.
And then also, Ramona, will the modules be available for view at a later time? The modules that you mentioned?
The modules, the facilitated modules, the schedule that I gave, we will talk about that. We are having some modules that are made specifically to be on demand, and we're trying to make sure that they represent the quality that NAP stands for. So for those that we want to publish as on-demand modules, we're taking special care to make sure that we set our presenters up in the best light and have quality material. So that's a different process than doing a live module. So we're working on some of those, but they're not quite ready yet.
Okay, and then one final question. The listing of the dates for the RP online series, Are those dates on the website? I think they are, but I didn't want to just say yes.
I see Madam Executive Director in the meeting room, so I'm going to say yes, and she and I will work on that tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Again, the information that you all have provided has really been informative, really getting the overall gist of exactly what your education your way, what that really means. And now we have Gail Knapp in our town hall today. Gail is a member of the NAP Commission on Credentialing, one of the hardest working committees in NAP right now. Gail, are you there and ready for my questions?
I certainly am. Anything that you can ask, I will do the best I can to answer.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us and being available in the town hall this evening. We know that you and the other members of the Commission on Credentialing answered most of these questions quite thoroughly in September at the NTC, but I think that it is worthwhile to go over these again. We have been hearing a lot of talk about alpha testing and beta testing. Can you tell us what that is all about, what they are all about, and the differences between them?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that. If you don't mind, before I start, let me point out to anyone who was not able to attend any of our workshops or was not in Buffalo that they can, oh, I'm sorry, my clock is going off. They can find out all about what we're doing by looking at the website, the NAP website, under documents. The criteria for credentialing document should be there, as well as a copy of the PowerPoint that we presented at the NTC. And I also would like to invite, I noticed looking at the list of participants that Rosalie Stroman, who is also a commissioner, is also present, and invite her to help me out if I get stuck or if I don't say something she thinks we should be saying. Having said that, this commission was created not as a committee, but as a separate commission in our bylaws 3 years ago. And the commission has the long-term goal of taking over the job that is done by the Professional Development Committee eventually. And during the transition, it is a bit confusing because we're going to be operating together for some time as we slowly take over the job and they slowly dissipate and give us the job as their committee ends its charge. But that will take some time. At the moment, we're both operating simultaneously. Up until now, the Commission on Credentialing has been simply creating the new process. And the important thing for people to remember is change can be painful and change can be difficult. And this is a very, very dramatic change. When we looked back in our first year at where the credentialing categories of RP and PRP started, the old-timers who are still with us told us that initially it was not imagined that those people who were RPs would actually be serving clients as parliamentarians. So the emphasis in the credentialing process for RPs was on book knowledge. These would be people in the imagination of the people who created the RP who were very knowledgeable about the book, where the professional registered parliamentarian would also be knowledgeable about serving as a professional parliamentarian with organizations. Therefore, our current credentialing process concentrates on book knowledge for the RP and on participation and working knowledge for the PRP. As I'm sure you all know, that's changed over time, and now the RPs are certainly serving clients. So the first thing the Credentialing Commission did was change the definition for the future. And we are now saying that the RP should be skilled in handling ordinary meetings under ordinary circumstances in routine matters, and the PRP should be particularly skilled in handling the unusual or the specialized kind of meeting. So we are now going to be assuming that both RPs and PRPs are in fact serving clients. Well, the 1,200 questions doesn't test that. And the other big thing that has changed is if you remember when President Jones was talking about how we're trying to make things clear and identify where things are, well, one of the things that was changed based on that bylaw amendment is we're making a clear distinction between learning material and being assessed, that is tested, and whether you've already learned it. So the part of NAP that we've been hearing about so far this evening, the part that's involved in education and teaching, is kept totally separate by rule in the bylaw amendment from the process of assessing that learning, which is the province of the Commission on Credentialing. Having said that, now we're back to your question. Eventually, I will get there. And that is, we wanted to make sure that all of our testing materials were statistically accurate. The bylaw amendment asks us to use good psychometric techniques. So what we have done is, with the help of many volunteer members and the 6 members of the Commission, we have put together a 3-step process. It will be mirrored in the PRP eventually, but at this point we're only working on the actual assessments at the RP. And the 3 steps are, first, objective book knowledge, which is a set of multiple choice tests. Then the kind of things that RPs do outside of meetings and in essay format, which would be step 2. And then at step 3 would be the actual performance of the jobs that an RP would be doing in an actual meeting. In order to make sure that we had good materials, we started with the alpha testing, which we started last year, and based on some of that feedback, we've done some changes and additional questions. We had some drafting committees made up of credentialed parliamentarians putting together the multiple choice questions for step 1. They are currently being tested by the alpha testers. Alpha testers are all members who already have at least an RP credential, and they are taking the tests using the brand new software, all of the forms of the test, because we have alternate forms. Altogether there will be 8 tests. The first 7 are based on specific information from very specific rules that are identified in that criteria for credentialing document. So instead of saying learn the whole book, we're saying these are the rules you should have in your head. And we've organized those questions into very specific categories. So the first one is basics of motions, and then we get to main motions, and then we get to subsidiary motions, and all the way up until finally we end up with being a professional parliamentarian. All of these are things that a knowledgeable parliamentarian should be able to do from memory in their head. Then the last step, even though you're dealing with ordinary situations and ordinary meetings as an RP, we all know that ordinary situations don't always end up being ordinary in a real meeting. So we assume that the RP will be able, if faced with something that they don't have in their head, to run quickly to the book and look up the answer. So the last of the multiple choice tests things, again, with specific rules that we've identified that are likely to show up, but we'll be able to go to the book and look for the answers. And then we move on to step 2 and step 3. The alpha testers are taking the tests just as the candidate would, giving us feedback about the questions, giving us feedback about the process. Based on that feedback and a statistical analysis of that feedback, we hope very soon this winter to be ready for the beta testers. These will be people who do not have the credential but wish to earn it and are willing to do that in the uncomfortable, perhaps needing several variations as we learn mistakes that we've made, and delays as we fix things up. So the NAP board has agreed to give those beta testers who complete all 3 steps under these perhaps difficult conditions the opportunity to do all the tests, and if they're successful on all 3 steps and complete the entire process, they will be awarded the RP and will have their testing fee waived. Everyone, while this is going on, will still be able to do the 1,200 questions and will continue to be able to do the 1,200 questions until we take over the RP, at which point there will be a grandfathering time where people who have started the RP and successfully passed 2 parts of the 1,200 questions will have 2 years in order to do a transition period. Did I answer?
Let me interrupt you there and just revisit. Can a person, a credentialed member, still sign up to participate in alpha testing?
Absolutely, absolutely, we would appreciate it. In fact, there are 2 things that we're hoping that credentialed people will be willing to volunteer for us. One is for the alpha testing process, which is ongoing right now, but it's a question of taking these 8 tests, and there are 3 forms for each test. An actual candidate will not take all 3 forms, but we want people to be successful. So we're doing this in tiny little steps that build on each other. And if you're not successful in the first time you try it, we give you a different test for the second part, but on that same material, and hopefully until you are successful. So you have to do the steps in order and finish one before you get to the next one. And because the terminology is brand new, the steps are the big thing, the multiple choice, then the things done outside of the meeting, and then the performance part. All of this, by the way, can be done online. The first part is divided into parts.
How do those credentialed members participate if they want to? How can new credentialed members sign up to be alpha testers?
Everyone was sent a letter, an email asking for their interest, and if they have not responded to that, they still can, and they can simply click on the link and fill out the form, and it will go to Greg Goodwiller, who is handling our data collection and running the data part of and giving people their password so that they can participate. So all they have to do is fill out that form, and it will go to him, and I will get a copy of it, and that will get them the password they need to start taking the test. Let me please say also that there's another thing that a credentialed member could do. If the first part, the first step, the 8 parts of step 1, all of those parts are multiple choice tests. Once those are completely tested, once the beta testers have completely tested them and we open them up to everyone, they will be totally scored by machine because it's all done on the computer. But step 2 and step 3 require essay type writing, and that has to be scored by a human being. A machine can't do that. So we are doing 3 things at the same time, which is, I know, making things confusing. We're still looking for credentialed people who are alpha testers to be the person who tries out these tests in order to see what we did well, what we need to fix before we offer it to people who are working on the credential. We also need credentialed members who are willing to do the training in order to be able to score the written assignments in step 2 and step 3. And if I might do a quick commercial, we are currently looking for them, and all credentialed members should have gotten an invitation for this also. If you think you might be interested, if you're already at least an RP, and you think that you might be interested in being an evaluator, we are doing 2 workshops that are introduction to evaluation. It is the same thing that we did at the NTC, but we'll have more time. We didn't have time at the NTC to do it fully. And one of them is coming up this Thursday with a repeat the following Monday, and then the other is 2 weeks later on the 15th and 19th of November. Anyone who wishes to find out if they want to be an evaluator and is credentialed is welcome to come to those, either one of the first 2 and either one of the second 2, and you'll find out everything you need to know about being an evaluator. If you can't come to those, we will be doing another repeat in January. Just let us know that you're interested, because we definitely need well-trained, skilled evaluators. Then the beta testers, I was absolutely flabbergasted when we asked all the members if they wanted to be beta testers, because we were hoping we need at least 30 completers in order for a good statistical analysis of our data. And I was absolutely floored, hoping to get at least 30, when almost 500 people signed up. And obviously that's way more. That's more than we have currently as RPs. So I think that those of you who are doing education are doing a good job, because you've got people all excited and interested, which is wonderful. But we have asked all of the people who signed up to be beta testers, and they're currently filling out a demographic form, and our data experts are going to look at those people from a demographic point of view and try to select a sample that best represents the diversity of the NAP membership, so that we can have a smaller group that would be very representative to do that initial testing. And I'd like to say to anyone who was wanting to be one of these people and isn't selected for that, you have a choice. You can wait until the beta testers are finished, at which point we will start it, open it to everyone, or you can continue with the 1,200 questions and get your credentials sooner. Okay, next question. Are you still there?
Hello, Gail. Yes, I am still here. I'm talking to you with my mic muted. Okay, so you have answered several questions that have shown up in the Q&A box regarding beta testing. And so now let me move on from the types of testing and ask you, let me also say that you have answered the question that persons completing and successfully completing the beta testing process will attain their RP credential. So let me ask you, Gail, what is the start date for the new exam process?
I can't answer that because of the process we're using. You see, the whole idea behind the alpha and beta testing is to find out what we're doing and fix any mistakes, errors, or difficulties before we get to the next step. So the alpha testers are currently doing the tests. We're going to do a statistical analysis of what they do. For example, these are all multiple choice questions. If we find on one of the tests that there is a question where all of the people who did extremely well on that test missed that question, or too many of them missed that question, we're going to go back and look at that question and see if we need to fix it. Because the people who did well should be doing well on that question, right? So that kind of analysis is going to be done. And we're not going to start beta testing until it's done. So how long will it take? Well, if the alpha testers finish the test quickly, then the data analysis will happen right after that. If the alpha testers finish quickly and the data analysis shows that we're ready to go, we'll start beta testing. If the alpha testers don't finish quickly, because we're letting them do this on their own schedule, because this is a huge job, or if they identify problems we have to go back and fix, then it will delay the start of the beta testing. And the same thing will happen when we start doing the beta testing. As the beta testers are taking the tests I'm sure they're going to find things we didn't notice. It is so easy when you get so involved in this material to not see things that someone looking at it with fresh eyes does see. So for that reason, I can't give you a date. We are very hopeful that in the coming year, we will be ready to do something. I'm even hopeful that we will be ready to start by the convention. But I'm not going to promise that. We can't say that yet because we don't know how well this will work, how quickly people will get things done, and how well the process will go.
Well, thank you for that answer. All right, so that clears up a lot of questions. We really don't have a start date for the new exam currently, and it's impossible to say right now. Well, what about this question, Gail, that I am asked all the time? I have started to take the individual exam parts for the RP exam. Will I need to start over with the new exam if I have not completed all 5 parts before the new process begins?
No. There are some people who want to wait for the new process, and that is absolutely fine. But the 1,200 question test will continue until we start the new process, and anyone who is underway, who has completed at least 2 of the 5 parts, will have 2 more years before it will end.
And Gail, I believe when you say 2 of the 5 parts, you're not including part 1, that research part.
I think we just said 2 of the 5 parts. Rosalie, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I believe any 2 of the 5 parts. But I'm doing that from memory, so that might be the case. But there will be 2 years after that to still continue with the old system. So they will both be there simultaneously for at least a 2-year period.
All right, thank you. Now, will the new process be an improvement over the old process?
Well, of course we think so. It'll be different. It will be different. And part of the difference,
Go ahead, Gail.
Part of the difference is it will definitely take longer. It won't be, now, if somebody wanted to, when I first became an RP, I studied and studied and studied, and I made an appointment with someone and sat down and for one whole day took tests and passed them and became an RP. You won't be able to do that anymore. You have to do each piece, one piece at a time, and that is in order to be sure that you're successful in one piece before moving to the next piece. So step 1 has 8 parts. So you have to finish part 1 before you go to part 2, and you have to successfully complete part 2 before you go to part 3. And after you finish step 1, you've got to start on step 2. And step 2 has 5 parts, and each part has pieces. And you have to finish 1 before you go to 2. And when you finish all of that, we will then go to step 3, which will be 1 event. We are hoping and expecting to do that as a video meeting, so it will also be available online. So the candidate will be there with 2 evaluators and a video of a meeting. So everyone will be treated the same way. As we do it now in the RP exam, each person who comes to a PQC has a different group of people doing a meeting, following one of the scripts, right? Now it will be a full meeting for each candidate, not a small piece because we have to fit 7 of them in that session over the 2 days. But one whole session with just 1 candidate with 2 evaluators, but it'll all be done online. So it will definitely take longer. We believe that since we're not going to say learn the whole book, we're going to say learn these specific rules for this specific test, and then go to the next test and learn these specific rules for this test. All the way through, we'll be doing that. And for step 2, it's all open book. Use any references you want, because this is the kind of thing a parliamentarian does outside of the meeting, where the parliamentarian has access to any resources that they wish. So we are hoping that this will make it a more practical test based on what parliamentarians actually do. For example, that research section you referred to, there was a time when that test was written, when if you were a parliamentarian sitting next to the president at a big convention with 500 people looking at you, and you needed to look something up in that book, you better be able to do it fast. 500 people are waiting for you to find that answer. Now, with computers, you put in a couple of keywords and it pops up on the screen. So it's archaic. It's a good test when it was written, but now it's not meaningful anymore. So we're going to ask the person on their own, at home, to write scripts, or to demonstrate teaching a class, or to show a chair how to write a bylaw amendment to accomplish something in their bylaws. That's the kind of thing that will be there in step 2.
Okay, so when you say, Gail, that you will ask the examinee to refer to a certain section of the book for this particular part of the test, is that like providing a question guide, like the 1200, not a question guide, but a guide like the 1200 question guide that we have for the current test? Because people are asking, are we going to have some sort of study guide, like in order study guide?
It's, again, it's yes, but no, because it's going to be different. We're not giving out the questions like the 1200 questions. So it is not going to be possible to simply memorize the answers to questions about rules. And our questions, although there will be a few questions that say, what is the rule in this situation? Our emphasis in writing those multiple choice questions was on application. Many of our questions read something like, you're the parliamentarian for the Alpha Club, and the president wants to do this. Can he? Okay? In other words, you need to know the rule, but you also need to know what advice you would give if you were the parliamentarian in that situation. With a very strong emphasis on actual application to real-life situations. So no, we're not going to hand out the questions. The questions will be kept private. However, we are telling you exactly the rules that you need to know for each test. Every single question will come from one of the identified rules that are there in the criteria for credentialing document, which lists it by topic. So you can say, for this first test, these are the rules I need to be able to know in my head. For this test, these are the rules I need to be able to know. And at the end of the test, you'll get feedback on each question, including the page and line numbers for the rules that you should have picked if you made a mistake.
Okay, and so Gail, I'm hearing that the only thing we will need, or a person may pass the exam by simply studying Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, the current edition.
Well, they don't have to study the whole book. They need to study the specific rules that are identified for that specific thing that we're doing. And you can, if you go, that's why it is impossible to not use that criteria for credentialing document, which does this all in great depth. It has, that's what's taken us all this time. You will find in that document, this is the topic main motions. Here's the rule, here's the page and line number. Here's the next rule, here's the page and line number. So you'll know exactly which rules you need to know before you take that test.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I have one final question here, Gail, which I'm going to ask you because someone put it in the Q&A box. I don't really quite understand the question, but I'm going to read it. Do you believe with the proposed new process for credentialing for RP that you will have participation from the non-credentialed members? In relation to the total membership, the numbers of new RPs is still a small number. I'm not sure. I mean, of course, if the non-credential members are going to be those who are going through the new process. So,
Exactly.
okay.
And almost 500 offered to be beta testers. I think that says something all by itself.
Yes.
In fact, I saw one of the questions that said, are we still looking for beta? If somebody still wishes to volunteer to be a beta tester, they can still fill out the questionnaire on that the people who already volunteered did, because it's only due the 1st of November, so you still have 2 days. But like I said, almost 500 people have asked to be beta testers, and we are going to be using only 20% of them because we simply can't handle that many.
Well, thank you so much, Gail. I really appreciate that you agreed to come to Town Hall this evening and answer questions about the new process, the new RP credentialing process. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me, because this is exactly the kind of question that I'm getting in my email every day too. Thank you for asking me to join you.
You are very welcome. And now, Ramona, if you have nothing further for us, then I will have a few announcements. We really do appreciate all that the education team has done today under the leadership of Ramona Hill, Betsap James, Loretta Tillery, Cynthia Mayo, and Gail. Thank you all so much for your participation this evening. I want to remind everyone that the 42nd Biennial Convention of NAP is going to take place September 5th through 8th in Las Vegas, Nevada. Please be present. Jeff, do you have some questions for our members this evening?
Oh, yes, I have a couple of poll questions here. Want me to go to the first one?
Yes, please.
All right. Yeah, so the first question here is about the NAP convention. True or false, do you already have on your calendar the NAP convention date in 2019, September 5 through 8? Please vote now.
Thank you, members, for voting. Pick either true or false to that question, whether or not you have already calendared the NAP convention, September 5th through 8th, next year in Las Vegas. We are going to close the poll now, Jeff. Thank you, and great numbers, 64% said yes, we've got that calendared. Thank you. And the second and last question, Jeff.
Yes, our second question this evening is also about the NAP convention. My primary interest at the 2019 NAP convention is A, the business meetings, B, the elections, or C, the parliamentary workshops. You may vote now.
Thank you, members, for voting. Please select either A, B, or C. And is it still open, Jeff, or is it closed?
It should still be open. I thought you were trying to close it, so I closed it, but I reopened it.
Okay, all right. If there's anyone else who would like to vote, please do so. We're getting ready to close it. Thank you, Jeff. So it looks like most people are going to show up for those who are attending will be showing up to go to the workshops. That parliamentary training, 65% say yes, they're interested in the workshops. 24% say you want to see parliamentary procedure in action at the business meetings, and 10% say you're there for the elections. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, members. And Jeff, if we can go back to the announcements, we will. I'd also, while that is coming up on screen, I'd like to thank the members of the Association Relations Committee. Ann Rempel, Stan Graysky, Linda Baer, Rosemary Segatola-Slami, who is ex officio member Cheryl Womble, Dave Whitaker, Ed Moore, Sadie Bowles, Edna Arrington, and Valerie Altoff. Thank you, members, for being on the Association Relations Subcommittee. Our next town hall is the 5th Tuesday, January 29th, 2019, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And those are all of the announcements that I have for you this evening. I would like to also thank Jeff, who has been technical support for tonight. And I'd like to defer now to President Jones for any final comments.
Once again, I join you in thanking the Association Relations and the participants tonight for a great town hall. I would like to announce that tomorrow's RP session will be on section 3 of the RP exam, not research. The chairman wanted to let you know that. That'll be on part 3. And we hope that everyone has a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you attending tonight. Good night.